Today we are going to be talking about the periodic table of elements. As you can see in front of me, I have it open, and we're just going to go through a few features of the periodic table. Okay, so first of all, we look at the columns going from the top to the bottom, right? And those columns are, as you can see, this arrow over here, those are called groups. So if you look at hydrogen over here, hydrogen is in group 1 of the periodic table. And then if you look at calcium over here, calcium is in group 2 of the periodic table. Let's see if we can count how many groups there are in the periodic table. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 groups. Okay, then let's talk a little bit about rows, right? Rows run from left to right or from right to left, right? Just depends. Basically, rows are running horizontally. Ooh, look how crooked that is. So, just looking for my mouse here. Here we go. Okay, so if we look at row 1 is hydrogen and helium over here, right? And we look at row 2 over here, row 3, row 4, row 5, 6, and 7. We do not regard the bottom elements as rows, okay? Can you guys see this empty space here? Right, these two empty spaces signify all of these elements here at the bottom. Okay, so instead of scientists putting all of these elements into the space, because then you can imagine how long the periodic table would be, they've condensed it and they've put it at the bottom. Okay, so guys, let's look a little bit at the periodic table and let's talk about what are all the elements separated into, right? So elements are classified into 3 groups: metals, semi-metals, non-metals. So if we look at this side, this portion of the periodic table, as well as all of these ones, these guys at the bottom, all of those are regarded as metals, right? I'm going to take you to the bottom of my screen and we're going to talk a little bit more about metals. It seems that I have not edited. Well, no matter. So if we think about the properties of metals, we know that metals are shiny. We use, if you look outside in the electrical lines, we use copper wire to conduct electricity as well, right? So we use metals for a lot of things. We eat with spoons, right, and forks and knives, and those are also usually made out of metal, right? Obviously, there are so many different kinds of metals, and we're going to talk about a few of them now. So if we look at a simple metal like, did you know that calcium is a metal? Calcium is found in our bones. Potassium is spelled with a P, but the symbol is K. All right. So if we look closely at the periodic table, we see that hydrogen is not written in full, enlarged, right? Or let's look at helium. Helium is not written in its complete word. I know it's here at the bottom, but it's actually signified using the symbol. The symbol is the abbreviated form of the word, right? So the symbol for helium is He. Let's look at oxygen. We don't write oxygen as its full word, we just write it as O. If we look at carbon, we know that carbon is the stuff that diamond is made out of, right? And the symbol for carbon is C. So you guys will have to learn the symbols for the purpose of your exams. Okay, back to the full view. So as I was saying, the periodic table is separated into metals, semi-metals, non-metals. all of these guys here are your metals, right? Let's talk a little bit about the ladder. And I'll show you exactly what I mean in a second. So there's a sort of a ladder that is created on the periodic table. I hope you guys can see this line I'm drawing. Oops. Right. So all of the elements in the ladder that I have drawn, all of these are semi-metals. And what is a semi-metal? A semi-metal is an element that has some features of a metal and some features of a non-metal. So for example, the semi-metal silicone. Silicone is shiny like a metal, but it cannot conduct electricity. It's not a good conductor of electricity, just like a non-metal. If we look at the metals on the side of the periodic table, they usually exist in solid form. All right, solid is something that's hard. And if we look at the non-metals on this side of the periodic table, they are usually in the form of a gas and sometimes even solid, right? So if we look at carbon, carbon is diamond in coal. Carbon will be obviously in the form of a solid, right? If we look at sulfur, sulfur is also in the form of a solid. But if we look at something like oxygen, oxygen is a non-metal and it's always in the form of a gas, right? Same with helium, same with neon and argon and chlorine, right? Chlorine exists as a gas in real life. Okay. Let's scroll a little bit down, or rather into the periodic table, and let's look at hydrogen. So when we look at hydrogen, we see that there's a small number 1 over here. That number, guys, if you recall from the last lesson we had together, that number is called the atomic number. And the atomic number tells us how many protons and how many electrons there is in one atom of an element. All right. So in one atom of hydrogen, there's going to be one electron and 1 proton. And if we had to demonstrate that in the form of a model, let's see how that would look. Okay, so here in front of you is the hydrogen model, right? Can you see that this is just one atom of hydrogen? In the middle, you have proton, right? And on the outer orbital, you have an electron. Remember, the atomic number for hydrogen is 1. So therefore, it will have 1 proton and 1 electron. That's pretty simple, I think. Okay, now let's look at this screen over here. The features of the periodic table. There are all in all 118 different kinds of atoms known to us in the universe. So everything around you is made out of a combination of these atoms or elements, or the elements on their own. For example, this gold nugget over here, right? A nugget of gold contains only gold atoms. That's why we call it an element. And if you recall from the last lesson, an element is also a pure substance because it's only made from one type of atom. All right, let's just scroll a little bit down so we can see what I've written. The elements are ranked from lightest to heaviest. The smallest number on the element tells us how many protons an electron and atom has. So the more protons and the more electrons an atom has, the heavier it's going to be. Let's look at an element with a lot of protons and electrons. Haha. Okay, so I'm going to circle, or rather, let me circle plutonium over here. Some of them are really hectic names, which I don't know myself. Okay, so plutonium is a man-made element, right? It's scientifically made. And can you see the small number over here? The small number is my atomic number, and it says 94. So that means that plutonium has 94 electrons and 94 protons. So it's quite a heavy atom, right? In your exams, I will be asking you to draw models of atoms, just like I showed you guys earlier. Okay, and then we spoke about rows, and we said rows run across, all right, from left to right, and we said groups run from top to bottom. All right, guys, and one of the last things I want to talk to you about is that we need to know the first 20 elements of the periodic table, right, including iron. Iron is not part of the 20, but you need to know iron as well. So it's hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, argon, potassium, calcium, and iron. And okay, so I'm going to show you guys the periodic table song. And this is such an awesome way, guys, to memorize the symbols and their names, right? So you're going to look at the pictures as well. It's very informative. The pictures will show you what each element is known for. And I'm going to make it a little bit slower than normal. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go.
The elements of the periodic table.
There's hydrogen and helium, lithium, beryllium, or carbon everywhere, nitrogen all through your pretty teeth, to light up the sign, sodium for salty times, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, then sulfur, chlorine, and argon, potassium, and calcium, so you'll go strong, scandium.
Okay, so those are basically the 20 that you need to know, all right? And I think that's pretty easy. And I'm going to play it one more time, and I'm going to play it a little bit fast. I think it's fun to hear it when it has that rhythm to it.
Periodic table.
There's hydrogen and helium, lithium, beryllium, or carbon everywhere, nitrogen all through the air, oxygen so you can breathe, chlorine for your pretty teeth, to light up the sign, sodium for salty times, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, then sulfur, chlorine, and argon, potassium, and calcium so you'll grow strong, scandium.
Okay, I really love the tune of this song. It's really, really brilliant idea they've come up with. Okay, guys, so what you guys are going to do for me is you're going to use the periodic table to provide symbols and atomic numbers for the following elements. I've already added the symbols for diatomic molecules. Do you guys remember from our previous lesson what diatomic molecules were? Diatomic molecules are basically when an element has in nature, it's bonded as 2 atoms in its natural form. All right, so helium, for example, will just exist as 1 helium atom, but hydrogen in its natural form will exist as 2 atoms bonded together. All right, by the way, this is the symbol for helium. Okay, like the symbol for hydrogen is H, the symbol for helium is He. Okay, the reason why I've put a 2 here by hydrogen, it tells me that hydrogen is a diatomic molecule. All right. Guys, you don't need to tell me the atomic number here. I'm just going to take that out. Okay. All you need to write down for me is the symbol. I think that's pretty easy. And I've written for you all 20 of them. Okay, and lastly, we're looking at this atom over here, right? I've drawn this atom for you guys. So I want you guys to try to identify what type of atom this is, Okay, so in order to identify which atom this is on the periodic table, we need to count how many electrons and how many protons there are. So let's count the electrons. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 electrons, and there should be 4 protons. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 protons, and these green guys are all your neutrons. So how do I figure out what element this is on the periodic table? Well, I need to look for my atomic number. Let's check it out. Because there's 4 protons and 4 electrons, I know that it is my 4th element on the periodic table. Remember I said that the atomic number tells me, which is the small number on the top here, it tells me how many protons and how many electrons are in an element. Okay, so this is basically the work for today, and I hope you guys understand. What you need to do is you need to please write for me the symbols for those elements and upload it or hand it in by the end of the lesson to Google Classroom. So in this lesson, you are not going to upload it onto Google Drive. You are uploading it onto Google Classroom. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Bye.